What is up, everyone? This is Visor, and I'm coming at you with yet another deck profile that is not the Exodia Summon Lord lock deck profile. I have been testing and testing and testing, and I just cannot get it to work anywhere near as consistently as it did previously. I've tried different things, I've tried different cards to try and tech it together. I've tried even Card of Demise in the deck, but I just can't get it to work quite how it did before. I'm going to still keep trying though. I'm going to still keep trying to get that deck to the same level of consistency as it performed in the previous format, but with the greatest of respect to... Actually, fuck that. With no respect to Konami whatsoever, this is perhaps the worst format of Yu-Gi-Oh! For a very long time. I know there'll be people that will disagree with me and say there are certain decks that ran riot in other formats, and you could argue that in terms of having more meta decks to play that are at least tier 1, tier 2, for whatever that means in terms of tier rankings. I think it means jack and shit, to be honest, but you've got options, you've Cosmos, your Monarchs, people still playing BA, even some Necros getting some airtime. You've got Blue Eyes and Dark Magician with some support. You've still got all your Pendulums, which are just insanely overpowered in the right hands. And the problem is that anti-meta and rogue decks are really struggling to compete with that, because having lost our draw support, the generic draw support that other decks may not normally tap into, we've lost the speed, as I discussed in my Konami's anti-meta rant, that the monsters and the cards that are primarily found in anti-meta and rogue decks, certainly from a monster perspective, don't have that inbuilt speed. There's linkages where if you send one of the new Blue Eyes Tuner to the grave, you can then special summon a monster from your deck, or you can banish it from the grave and add a card from your hand to your from the grave to your hand, and then you can show one of the Blue Eyes and you can special summon. I mean, decks, even that Blue Eyes, which is not a meta deck at the moment, or at least certainly not a high level meta deck, it's just got so much inherent speed and such ease of access to its rank 8s and level 9 synchros that it's just impossible really to create a deck without generic draw support that has a chance of being able to compete with that. Which I think is a shame, because, as I said, Konami have completely killed creativity. They've completely killed the ability to use the 8,000 cards in the game, the 7,000 of which that probably no one ever touches, to put them together and create something that will be competitive, because the meta is now just so quick, so overpowered. I see in comment sections for other Yu-Gi tubers that, this is your turn 2 or turn 3 field. And if it goes beyond turn 3... the game's taken too long, basically. Like, turn 2, you should be able to throw up a field where you've got 3-4 monsters, one that's immune to everything, one that's got negation, so you can just stop your opponent from doing everything. And that's crazy. That's ridiculous that you can just throw that up there. The whole point of spells and traps is that they were supposed to be the cards that gave you that... that stun, that stall, that negation, not the monsters themselves. The fact that the monsters are so incredibly overpowered now is taking away a lot of the fun from Yu-Gi-Oh! Certainly if you're an anti-meta player, because coming up with something to compete consistently is difficult. Yes, the odd Gravekeepers with Card of Demise is going to top every now and again. Yes, you may even find that a burn deck will top every now and again. But the facts are these are getting rarer and rarer. And while some players will argue that that's a good thing, I argue that basically you're being pre-programmed to play the game in set archetypes that in ways that Konami want you to play, because there is no other way you can play. That's the problem, that you can't play a deck of your own creation, or Shadol's now on the severely outclassed. Yeah, I still use Shadol's in a few of my anti-meta decks, but they're so severely outclassed now by everything. And that was only 2 years ago, and they're so like if tier rankings exist, Shadol's like tier 15, if not like tier 1000, because everything else is so much quicker. And I feel that's a shame, because you're basically being asked to play in a preordained package because these cards are set to work in such a fashion. Now, of course, the timing is down to the not necessarily the skill of the opponent, but the knowledge the opponent possesses on how these cards interact with each other. But I think that's sad, because basically now you're just all robots playing the game in exactly the same way that everyone else is playing it. Not that, playing it game after game. The Exodia Summon Lord deck pretty much did play the same way. It was set up the lock and that was it. But the fact that you've got just swathes of duelists playing this game who are just all clones of each other with no real difference. And in live games, the only difference is whether or not they can afford that really expensive rank 8 card that's going to take their deck to the next level, or whatever it might be. So I think it's a really sad state of affairs for Yu-Gi-Oh! And imagine being a new player coming into this format. I mean, fuck. As a new player, you'd have to spend so much time learning everything. Not just the rules, not just the mechanics, not just the gameplay. And then you throw in the additional pendulum gameplay, and where the fuck does a pendulum monster go when it's destroyed or not destroyed, or if it's been on the field as a spell card or a monster card. Then you've got to learn effects of these monsters that are just swathes, paragraphs upon paragraphs of text that just do so many things, that they've got one effect if it's on the field, and if it's in the field and it's popped and sent to the graveyard, it still can do something else as well. And it's just ridiculous. The power creep is ruining the game completely. So as such, fuck the meta, Demise Burn, bitches. That's how we're going to roll for this format. I know this isn't unique. I've seen plenty of people with Demise Burn decks on YouTube. Mine's a slight variation, but of course it's pretty much the same cards that everyone else is playing in Demise Burn. And I think this will give you a serious chance of competing, because the thing with Demise Burn, or Chain Burn in general, is that you get through your cards relatively quickly and you're hurting your opponent in the process. So within 3 or 4 turns, you can have game, if not more quickly, depending on the cards you draw. So let's get right into it. 1 card Cardee. I'm only running 1 card Cardee for one reason, and that reason is Demise does not really have synergy with card Cardee, and vice versa. So card Cardee is a great card to have in hand if you're not planning on playing Demise that turn. However, sending it to the graveyard to draw 2 and have those 2 be discarded to the graveyard by Demise is not an optimum play, particularly when maybe that top card of your deck is the card that you would have needed next turn to either buy yourself another turn of stall or win for game. 1 Lava Golem. I know people are playing multiples of Lava Golem in Demise Burn. Again, I think this is ridiculous. You can't special summon the turn you play card of Demise. Fine, that's not a problem because you've got so many trap cards to go off. However, I would argue if you're playing multiple copies of Lava Golem, chances are you want to get Lava Golem onto the field. Otherwise, it's a completely wasted card in your deck. And the thing is, most monsters that have a negation, whether it's Infinity, or I just played a Blue Eyes deck recently, which is why I'm referencing it, that had a particular rank 8 card that negated. Basically, they can really only negate one thing per turn, and the whole point about Chain Burn is you should be setting 5 cards near enough most of the time. So there's no reason why that really is too much of a problem for you. Lava Golem really is in there just to get rid of that. If they do summon that one monster, and I don't have Demise, just to get it off the field, and they can take that extra 1,000 damage as well. 2 Swift Scarecrow. I'm not playing 3. The problem with Chain Burn is you can get clogged down and stall. Yes, you need stall to survive turns. However, you do not want to be drawing multiple Swift Scarecrows, Wabakus, and Threatening Roars turn 1. Otherwise, scoop, you're done. 3 Card of Demise. You're going to be setting everything near enough in your hand. It's a great way of getting your hand back up to speed as well. Card of Demise in Chain Burn is too OP. 2 Chain Strike because it's Chain Burn. 1 Day of Peace because you need a card and you want to stall. 3 Duality. 3 Accumulated Fortune. 2 Ceasefire. 2 Dimension Wall. Dimension Wall is a better card than Magical Cylinder because it does not target. So anything like the Blue Eyes Max Dragon that can't be targeted, or whatever the host of cards at the moment that are out in the meta that can't be targeted, which is way too many, well, this says, fuck you, we don't care, take the damage yourself. 2 Jar of Greed, 2 Just Desserts, 2 Legacy of Yatagarasu. The reason for 2 and 2 of Jar of Greed and Legacy is because of Accumulated Fortune and Chain Strike. You do not want to be activating cards with the same name in the chain, so I don't understand why people play 3 Legacy and then 1 Jar of Greed. When do you ever have your opponent with a Spirit Monster face up on the other side of the field? It just doesn't often happen. 2 Jar and 2 Legacy is a much better way of operating, and Just Desserts works fantastically if your opponent decides to swamp the field, and if they don't, you can set up 2 Ajama Trio with the 2 Ajama Trio and then burn them with Just Desserts. Summons 3 tokens, you know the score, and they take damage if they get rid of it from their side of the field as well. 3 Reckless Greed. I know I just prattled on there about the need for the differences between Legacy and Jar of Greed. Well, in essence, they're the same card. That's why you need to run 2 and 2. Reckless, you just need that bona fide draw power, so you've got to run 3 Reckless. Yes, it can hurt when you have to pop off 1 Reckless Greed as opposed to multiple, but you've got enough draw in the deck with Accumulated Fortune to be able to, and the Jar of Greeds and Legacies to get through your deck quickly enough, but you still need that speed, hence 3 Reckless Greed. One card that a lot of people don't play in Chain Burn, which I do quite like to play, is Ring of Destruction. Yes, there are a lot of monsters that can't be targeted, but there are plenty that still can, and it's a great way of setting up a chain as well that you can then chain Threatening or Woboku to, so you can burn your opponent just before they're about to go into the battle phase, and then settle for chain to get Accumulated Fortune off as well, without having to take any damage during your battle phase. But Ring of Destruction, I think, is a really good card to have in this deck. 2 Secret Barrel and 2 Secret Blast. Secret Barrel is the better card than Secret Blast, but Secret Blast has that little extra tech of if they destroy the card, they have to take 1,000 damage, and it's 300 versus 200 for Secret Barrel, but Secret Barrel includes the cards in the hand they control. If they set everything, then Secret Blast is a better card, but on the whole, Secret Barrel will always do more damage. But 2 of each, and 2 Threatening Roar and 2 Woboku for exactly the same reason as Jar of Greed and Legacy of Yatta. They do the same thing, so you don't need to run 3 and 3 or 3 and 1. 2 and 2 is a better way of running it. And as I've already stated, you do not want to get clogged up in stall cards. You don't need to run 3 Threatening and 3 Woboku and 3 Swift Scarecrow, because Card of Demise gets through your deck so quickly. That's the thing. I don't understand why people are running 3 of this and 3 Woboku and 3 Swift when you've got 3 Card of Demise in your deck. You will get through it quickly enough, and you will draw enough cards to be able to start burning your opponent. So don't panic about that. Side deck, irrelevant. Extra deck is just the best of the fusion monsters available. So just a quick overview. You can see you've got some insanely OP boss monsters in there. Thousand Eyes, just too powerful in the game, and Zombie Warrior as well when you need to throw up that 1200 extra damage. But that is the deck, and to be honest, I know a lot of people hate Burn, and they're probably going to hate it a lot more, because this format, if you're anti-meta, really does not lend itself to anything other than Chain Burn. Make the most of Card of Demise whilst we still have it, because I promise you they are going to get rid of it come the next ban list, or at the very least, I promise you they're going to limit it. So get it in your decks whilst you can if you're an anti-meta or rogue player, and get burning your opponent. I will keep working on Summon Lord Exodia, even though by the time I finish it I'm probably going to be in the next format and it's going to have changed again. But I am trying, but without the draw it's difficult, and Card of Demise, because you can't special summon the turn you play it, means you can't get Summon Lord onto the field quickly enough, which means that you have to ensure you've got Exiled Flame or Obliterate on the field and Scrub Raid to be able to bring that back to hand. But it slows the deck down so much more significantly when you're dumping Summon Lord through Card of Demise, and it's not quite the same as like the anti-meta Shadol deck where you can just sit on it because you're playing Secret Village. and trap monsters to basically stall. It's so conditional because you have to run many more stall options in Summon Lord than the anti-meta Shadol deck. In Summon Lord Exodia, you've got to run Imperial Custom, your Meta Reflect, your Scrub Raids, your Kaiser Colosseums, your Obliterates, possibly a Skill Drain. So there's at least 6 different back row options, and maybe even like a dark. You might want to set a Dark Bride if they're playing Pendulums. So it's a different one, and it's a difficult one to get my head around and figure out quite where to take it. Currently playtesting it with Secret Village of the Spellcasters on the back of my anti-meta Shadol deck, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, Demise Burn for the win. Get wrecked the meta. See you in the next video.